God is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am great. God is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am. God is great. So great, and I am great. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am love. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am. God is love. Love, and I am love. Put your hands together. God is great, and I am great. Whoa. God is great, and I am great. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. Peace. Oh, I have peace. Oh, God is great. God is great. So I am great. God is great. So I am great. God is great. And I know that I am great. I am great. Yeah. Put your hands together, yeah. God is great, and I know that I am great. God is great. God is great, and I know that I am great, and I am great. You are great, we are great. Oh, God is love. Oh, love, your hands together, yeah. God is great, and I know that I am great. God is great. God is great, and I know that I am great, and I am great. You are great, and we are great. Oh, God is love. Oh, la 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 la. And God is great. So, oh, God is love, sweet love. I love you, and love, we are love. I know I am. 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 God is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am great. God is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am. God is great. So great, and I am great. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am love. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am. God is love. Love, and I am love. Put your hands together. God is great, and I am great. God is great, and I am great. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. Peace. Oh, I have peace. Oh, God is great. God is great. So I am great. God is great. So I am great. God is great. And I know that I am great. I am great. Yeah. Put your hands together, yeah. God is great, and I know that I am great. God is great. God is great, and I know that I am great, and I am great. You are great, and we are great. Oh, God is love. Oh, la la is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am great. God is great. God is great. So I am great. So I am. God is great. So great. And I am great. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am love. God is love. God is love. So I am love. So I am. God is love. Love. And I am love. Put your hands together. God is great, and I am great. Whoa. God is great, and I am great. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. God is peace. So I have peace. God is peace. Peace. Oh, I have peace. Oh, God is great. So I am great. God is great. So I am great. God is great. And I know that I am great. I am great. Yeah. Put your hands together. Yeah. God is great, and I know that I am great. God is great. God is great, and I know that I am great, and I am great. You are great, we are great. Oh, God is love. Oh.
Hello, hello. Good morning, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you on this Sunday morning as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of God flowing in, through, and as us. This is good news. This is the truth that we celebrate. This is the truth that we seek to awaken within the hearts and minds of each and every person who encounters this good thing we call Celebration Spiritual Center. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer. And this morning, our prayer champion, Reverend Shauna, will lead us in prayer.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's close our eyes. Let's ground ourselves in this moment, breathing in and breathing out. Be here now. Feel the presence of God throughout your body, because right where we are, God is. God the omnipresence, God the omnipotence, God the omniscience, God that created everything and everyone, God the invisible cosmic web that connects all things. That God is the power, the love, the vibration, and the ease inside each and every one of us. God is the magnificence shining through our humanity. God is visible through our eyes and our hands and our lips and our movement. God is the thing connecting us with ourselves, our community, and Mother Earth herself. God has demonstrated miracles in my life. God has seen me through every challenge. There is the certainty that all that I am, all that I have, and all that I do is from the God within me. I expect miracles and answered prayers, and they manifest in my life and in the lives of my family. They manifest throughout the CSC community. They are demonstrated throughout my neighborhood, through my city and state. I've seen wondrous things come to completion in my life that I never expected. I realize that this month is one where we remember our ancestors, that we are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. I recognize that their light of faith and truth infuses me on the road towards justice in the world. I let go of outworn behaviors and embrace my bright, brilliant future. When I release habits that no longer serve me, I move towards something greater: peace, safety, harmony, freedom, fulfillment, happiness, and security. I breathe in freedom and I breathe out fear. I remember that the all-protecting power of God is as near as my next thought. I say no to fear and yes to faith. I remember that the Lord is my rock and my fortress, my strength and my salvation, my deliverer whom I will trust. That helps light the way towards a world infused with both justice and love, light and truth. I am free to choose the future I want to experience. I remember that I'm free to choose my thoughts. I remember that I'm free to choose my perspective. I remember that I am free to choose my actions. So right here and right now, in this moment, I am choosing to focus on the good. I am choosing to focus on that light of faith and truth. I am choosing to focus on those things which give me hope. I choose to focus on those things that remind me that things are always working out for me. I choose to focus on those things that show me that harmony exists, and to remember that within every challenge there is a gift. I am free to release fear, doubt, and worry. We are light workers in the midst of darkness. We are healers in the midst of anxiety. God is within each of us, and it is our privilege to hold the highest vibration of love and be the light bringer and the healer that this world is calling for. I am so grateful and thankful that I am surrounded by beautiful, self-aware, conscious members of the CSC community, holding the highest vibration for ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and our planet. I am grateful and thankful for the technology that allows us to come together to see and be with each other virtually. I'm grateful and thankful to hear the music, the meditation, and the message of faith and truth today. Life, the law, is a game that benefits us all equally, and we are learning how to play in harmony with it. If we focus our awareness and attention on who and what God is and who and what we are, we can go forth today and throughout our week confidently, knowingly, mindfully, and joyfully. Therefore, I release this word back into that divine law that already knows what to do and how to do it, and declare that it is already done. So it is with total joy, expectation, and acceptance that we now say amen, ashe, and so it is.
Yes, yes, yes. Amen, ashe, and so it is. We choose faith over fear. We know the absolute truth in this knowing. Thank you, Reverend Shauna, for grounding us in prayer, grounding us in truth as we move forward in this powerful celebration we call the weekend service. Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome. Happy Sunday. It is so very good to be here with you, whatever time of day it may be where you are. It is a good time. It is a good day. It is a happy moment. To our first-time guests, if you are joining us for the very first time, we want to extend a specific welcome to you. Thank you for choosing to join us. Thank you for choosing to stream this service, this celebration. We're confident that just by your presence, something will be said, something will be done that will support you in thriving this week, that will support you in living an empowered life, that will support you in thinking the thoughts that lead to an empowered life. And so we're grateful that you chose to be here. As a first-time guest, we'd love to stay in touch with you. And the information you see here on your screen is how you access your digital connection card. Just text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Just the word welcome. No additional information is needed at that moment. After you text that phone number, you'll receive a response with a link. That link takes you to the digital connection card. Please fill out the information there. There's only about 3 fields. It's very short and sweet. Once you enter that information and submit it, you'll receive a follow-up text that says you're all set. At that point, you'll be on our mailing list. You'll receive our weekly email that goes out on Fridays and any other correspondence that is necessary to keep you abreast of what is happening at CSC. Now, as you'll see in just a moment, we'll move into our news and updates. You'll see that there are things that we'll share that will also be echoed in the weekly email that you're going to want to have more convenient access to. So with that said, I think it's a good time to get into the news and updates so that we can move forward with the music, with the meditation, and the message. It is Women's History Month, or as we like to say, Women's Herstory Month. I think it's very important that this is a time for women to define and speak for themselves, right? And so I love the idea of Women's Herstory Month versus just History Month. And of course, we know that specifically within New Thought, we stand on the very capable, empowering, and brilliant shoulders of women who really anchored this teaching. It was women like Emma Curtis Hopkins, who's considered the teacher of teachers, who taught Ernest Holmes, who taught the Fillmores, who taught so many others that then led to wider movements. And so it is in that spirit that we as a New Thought community honor Women's History Month. And one thing that I want to share with you all, something that we've started this month as we're in our 10th year. One of the things is we have so many sermon series that are impactful and powerful, and I know that many of you return back to them. And so what we started doing this month, as you may have seen in the weekly email, we will now highlight a series of the month. Give you an opportunity to revisit series that have happened before. As many of you, if you're new to CSC, even in the last 5 or 6 years, right, you may not be aware of some of the sermon series that were done 10 years ago or 8 or 9 years ago. And so in Women's History Month, of course, it was appropriate for us to highlight this sermon series, Speak the Truth, Honoring Women of New Thought. We honor Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman in a sermon, of course, Florence Scovel Shin, and Catherine Ponder, and others. So I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and check out that sermon series. And of course, if you're on our mailing list, you'll see the link, which will give you quick access to that playlist so that you can revisit that series and also, in the spirit of Women's History Month, honor the women of New Thought. We gather together for prayer every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. We are back to our normal schedule. We had an awesome time last month gathering together Monday through Friday. But beginning this Wednesday, we are back to the 7 a.m. Momentum Prayer Call, which is an opportunity to continue the momentum that we create on Sundays. It's an opportunity to create momentum for your day and for the remainder of your week as we gather together in midweek. And so we encourage you to set your alarms, put this information in your phone so that you can easily access it, and join us for prayer. We share a reading that's inspirational, and then we pray and we move on with our day. It doesn't take long. It's no more than a 10-minute call. You also see that there's a playback number, and so we do record the prayer each and every week, so the most recent prayer is always available 24/7. If you need to just tap into that vibration of truth, that vibration of absolute knowing, you can always access that number, and you don't have to do anything, just wait. The most recent prayer will play, and you can live in that vibration. We encourage you to do that. The web link is specifically for those who are outside of the U.S., but also that web link can connect you to downloading the app if you want to use the app instead. Now, if you have a prayer request, we encourage you to email prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We will know the truth with you. We continue to know the truth with you. Our prayer champions, as well as PY and myself as the pastors of this organization, are always in prayer, are always holding the highest knowing. You are always on our minds. We are always seeing and knowing the very best for you. And we recognize that you may be seeking specific support around a specific issue. We recognize that you may be seeking prayer or seeking a partner in prayer as you are knowing the truth for someone in your life, a family member, friend, loved one. And so we're happy to stand with you in that way as well. We also encourage you that as your prayer is answered, email us again and let us know how prayer is working in, through, and as your life. Every third Sunday is God Talk Sunday. So that the third Sunday of this month is March 19th. What is the God Talk? The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. This happens after service at 1 p.m. No question is off limits. And we recognize that there's a need to be able to ask questions, to get clarity around these principles that we're studying. It's necessary to be able to ask questions, to get clarity on something that may be going on in your life, and you want to understand how do you apply these principles that you've read, these principles that we're teaching, to a specific situation in your life. That's what the God Talk is all about. It is free. It is open to everyone. But the link and password for the Zoom meeting is sent via email. So you need to be on our mailing list to access that. It's not shared publicly. But we encourage you to put that on your calendar as well, and make sure that you join us for the God Talk. It is always, always, always a good time. It is always, always an enlivening and enlightening time. We always leave the session better than when we walked in, and it's really amazing to witness how Source works through the questions and through the answers and through the conversation. Finally, we encourage you to invite someone to join us for the live stream. We are looking for those who are looking for us, and we know that you may have a friend, family member, someone in your circle that you know might be interested in what it is that CSC is all about. Send them a link to a previous stream. Send them a link to a sermon or a song or a meditation, and then invite them to join us on the live stream next Sunday. And that concludes the news and updates for today, which means that we get to have the awesome opportunity of being led in meditation with the meditation experience by Pastor Yolanda.
Yes, the meditation experience. Well, it's a new month and a new opportunity to take a thought and use that thought throughout the month consistently, and let the experience of the words, I almost feel the meditation of my heart coming up in my consciousness, let that activity, let that thought permeate every cell of our being. Come back to it when we need it, but to know that we are using the affirmative thought to take us deeper into our experience of ourselves and our connection to the infinite, our connection to the divine. I remember from last month's message series, PG was talking all about facts on facts on facts. Well, the affirmative thought is kind of like a fact that we get to live with for the month. It is a truth that we get to feel. And as I like to say, you can have all of the sacred knowledge, but if you don't have the direct experience of God, then it's just information, and we want to experience God within ourselves. So, with all of that in mind, this month's affirmative thought, I am one with all that is. I am one with infinite intelligence. I am one with divine mind. However you want to say it, but the knowingness that we are one with it, that we are guided by it, that we are held by it, that we are inspired through it, is powerful. And we get to take this understanding that I am one with all that is. I am one with spirit. I am one, not separate, not alone in my story or experience, but I'm one with it. I get to take that knowledge and let that inform how I move and flow in the world. I am one with all that is. It's a profound truth. It is a fact. And it is a fact that we take into our meditation. From this knowing, let us prepare. Look around the room. Notice where you are. I love this imagery this month. Have you ever just looked at the clouds and known that you are one with all that is, the expansiveness of the universe, the beauty of the cloud patterns, the ever-widening knowing of the sky? I'm one with all that is. As we look around the room, we notice where we are in this moment, that we are in our homes, seated upright in a chair, on our bed, on our sofa, but that we are seated upright, that we're not leaning too far back or too far forward, but that we're just right in a comfortable seated position with our ears aligned over our shoulders, shoulders over hips, and we plant the palms on the tops of the thighs, making that direct contact, that nice, easy movement, and settling in, allowing the comfort of this experience of our oneness to take us deeper. We are safe, and we are one with all that is. So go ahead in the security of that knowing and close your eyes. And that nice, easy, simple act of closing the eyes is a signal to the brain, the nervous system, the breath, that something else is happening, something deep within us that we can relax into. And for a few rounds, just notice the breath. Whether the breath appears to be deep or appears to be shallow, it matters not. We judge it not. We experience the breath, and we are in gratitude for the breath, for it is a reminder of the constant flow of life. It is a reminder that we are one with all that is. That energy flows on the breath. And now, let's take conscious control of the breath, for it is ours to do so. We bring our consciousness, our energy, our knowing that we are one with all that is. And so let's flow on the breath together, sending our thought and the breath low into the belly now. Together, inhale for a count of 4. Hold it there, count to 4. And open the mouth, release the breath, count to 4. In through the low belly again, dropping that breath nice and deep, low in the body, signaling the relaxation more. Expanding, holding for a count of 4. And releasing the breath, count of 4. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the sides and the front and the back of the body, filling up, count of 4. Now hold it there, count of 4. And letting it all go, count of 4. And taking that breath deep and rising in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding, finding more places for the breath, front and sides and back. Experiencing the infinite as your breath. Experiencing the all that is as your breath. Hold it there. And sigh it out. It's nice to hear the breath and connect to the breath, sending it deep into the low belly, up through the rib cage, now rising to the heart center of the chest. Hold it there when you reach the top. And without collapsing the body, release the breath. Sigh it out. There's a nice silence and a peace at the end of the breath. We use that to summon the breath and send it all the way in and up again through the heart center. Hold it there. And release it once again. Let's practice that full breath that has allowed our body to relax with each round, in and all the way up. Hold it at the top. And this time, close the lips. Exhale through the nose, slowing it down even more. Count of 6. I am one with the infinite, with perfect spirit. I am one with the perfection of life. I am one with the truth of my very being. I am whole, perfect, and complete. And there is nothing wrong with me. A few more rounds of practicing on your own. Accepting the divine presence as your presence now. Accepting the infinite intelligence as your intelligence now. Accepting the divine goodness as your goodness now. Beautiful, everyone. Let's send that energy into the feet, for they want to relax and experience the connection. Maybe raise the heels or the toes, wiggle the toes. Stop that movement, relax the feet. Unobstructed, the energy flows up through the soles of the feet, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. We feel that energy, that warmth flowing across the shins and the calves. Relax the shins and the calves. We bend, we become more flexible in our experience of oneness, of wholeness. Relax the knees. And now that energy flows across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings. Feel a softening and an opening as we release the thighs, the glutes, and the hamstrings, sinking deeper into this knowing that I am one with all that is. As that energy begins to gather at the base of the spine, it is prepared to rise. It is prepared to enliven the experience. It is prepared to heal what needs to be healed. For we are one with all that is. Together, let's send that energy in and up. Exhale and allow. In and up. Exhale, allow. This knowingness of oneness cannot be stopped. In and up. Exhale and allow. In and up. Exhale and allow. Up and up. Out the crown of our head, gathering above us, connecting us all, reminding us of our eternal connection. Allow that energy to flow back down through the crown. And as it flows back down, softening, opening the third eye, relaxing the eyelids, the throat, across the shoulders, they relax, down the arms, out the fingertips. Scan the body and notice if there's any tension, any resistance to feeling that I am one with all that is. Turn the palms up to receive more, or leave them down to ground. As we scan the body, we may notice thoughts. That's okay. As we prepare for our silent time, we remember the fact of this experience. I am one with all that is. I allow that oneness, that truth, to be my truth now. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey, bringing it back to the truth and experiencing it for yourself now. With our eyes still closed, we enjoy this connection, this experience, this knowing that we are one with answers, that we are one with peace, that we are one with ease. With our eyes still closed, we release any worry, doubt, or fear that this presence is our mind, our experience now, for we are one with it. We bring this awareness back with us. We take it with us as we go about our week. When we don't think we have answers, we remember that we are one with answers. So let's slowly bring ourselves back into the space. If the palms are turned up, turn them down. And gently Rub the palms across the thighs. Nice, easy, gentle waking. Maybe we wiggle the fingers and the toes. Elongate the breath, allowing it to fill us completely. Stop the movement. Draw the shoulders up by the ears. Release the shoulders back and down. Again, drawing the shoulders up and back. Releasing the breath. One more time. In and up. Exhale, releasing the shoulders back and down. Bring the palms together at heart center. Bowing the chin to the fingertips. Allowing that energy to flow along the spine. Remembering our alignment this week. Remembering that we are one with all that is this week. All the power that ever existed exists in us now. All the peace and ease as well. Slowly flutter the eyes open. Nice soft gaze, no strain on the eyes, no strain on our bodies or our mind. Inhale, raise the chin. Raise the gaze. Release the breath. Allow the smile to come from the experience of our knowing. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
I encourage you to come back to this stream, come back to the meditation. You can use this every day this week as part of your daily spiritual practice, if you so desire. Well, we are in a new month. It is the month of March. We are days away, a few weeks away from spring, which is awesome. We're days away from PY's birthday. We're a few weeks away from our 10th anniversary. Lots of wonderful things happening in the month of March. And of course, that also means that we have a new message series happening. And this month's series was inspired by something very specific, but it was kind of serves as an intervention. Something that started to bubble up and surface towards the end of last year, and definitely right as we came into this year, is a trend anchored by a question. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but is wholeness the new wellness? And of course, we as metaphysicians understand wholeness. We talk about wholeness a lot here at CSC. And so I felt it was very important for us to anchor that understanding of wholeness in a series this month as, again, sort of an intervention, if you will. And so I will be speaking today from the sermon, Wholeness Over Wellness. But of course, before we get into the sermon, we'll hear from Soul 21. So please enjoy, sing along, and I will see you on the other side.
Everything I seek, it is seeking me. What I desire is desiring me. I let go of doubt, let go of worry, 'cause it will find me, find me, find me. It will find me, find me, find me. Can we clap it out? Oh, clap it out. Everything I seek,
it is seeking me.
what I desire is desiring.
What I desire is desiring me.
So I let go of doubt,
I let go of doubt, let go of worry.
it will find me.
It will find
In the right place, in the right way, at the right time, it will find me.
It will find me, find
Yes, it will. I have no doubt. I can rest and relax. Oh, looking for me. My dreams are looking for me. Oh, my peace is looking for me. Yeah, it won't stop looking for me. Soul 21, can you sing, looking for me? Yeah, my dreams are looking for me. Oh, my peace is looking for me. And it won't stop, it don't stop, it can't stop looking for me. Oh, looking for me. Good health is looking for you. Healing in body and mind. My wealth is looking for me. Yes, yes. It won't stop, it don't stop, it can't stop. It won't stop, don't stop, it can't stop. Oh, looking for me. More love is looking for me. And if I have love, then I gotta have joy. More joy is looking for me. And it won't stop, it don't stop, it can't stop. Oh, it will find me. I'm confident because I've seen it over and over in my life. That life responds to my thought, responds to my knowing. I do not have to push, I do not have to beg, I do not have to shove. I simply have to surrender and allow. Band, play it out. Oh, oh, oh. See, I know that it will find me. It will find me easily and effortlessly. So I don't worry. Sopranos, what do you know? Oh, I know, I know. Also, how is it going to find you? Easily? Effortlessly. Easily. Effortlessly. Oh. Hey, hey, hey. Hey. Sinners. Oh. Yes, yes, I know. It will find me. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
Yes, 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 yes. I know it will find me easily and effortlessly. That is still one of my weekly affirmations that I listen to on a daily basis. I know that the things that I'm seeking are seeking me. I know it'll find me in the right place, in the right time, in the right way. it is the absolute truth. Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are. I know that it is good, and I'm grateful to be here with each and every one of you as we begin this new message series, Embracing Wholeness. And just to kind of ground us a little bit, as I was thinking about where do we begin with this series, I was reminded of my life back in 2008. And I remember in 2008 studying Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. Many of you may remember that Oprah made it an event, and she had weekly sessions with Eckhart asking questions, and I believe people were even able to set up study groups and ask questions. And my best friend and she and I decided to read it together, and it was absolutely life-changing. And I remember after studying that book, I said to her, I think I'm going to find a church, a spiritual home, a spiritual community. Now, I had been away from anything close to a church for about 7 years. So this was very significant. She was surprised. But what I was also clear about was that I wasn't going to seek it. Right? I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that what I was seeking me, and it would find me. And wonderfully, as I moved into 2009 through an interesting series of events, that's another story for another time, I was introduced to Sacred Center, New York, which became my spiritual home. Sacred Center, New York, which was the place that I met Pastor Yolanda. And I made Sacred Center my home. And many of you who are part of the CSC family now were also a part of that Sacred Center family. Now, Sacred Center was anchored by 9 beliefs. And the third of those 9 beliefs says this: all life is a movement towards our wholeness, our greatness. Now, at the time being introduced to Sacred Center, New York, this was the first time I had ever heard this statement. And I think for many of you, coming to Celebration Spiritual Center may have been the first time that you heard this statement. And there's something very powerful about just hearing that or reading that. All of life is a movement towards our wholeness, our greatness. And this philosophy, this one of the 9 beliefs of the spiritual community, is directly inspired by the Tao Te Ching, verse 9, the Jonathan Starr translation. To the sage, all of life is a movement toward our perfection, is what's written in the text. But one of the things that's beautiful, and it's why I note this is the Jonathan Starr version, in addition to the Tao Te Ching, you can buy a companion text which outlines and breaks down how Jonathan Starr translated from the ancient Chinese into English. And so what you find is that that word that he chose to use there, perfection, the root of that word perfection as it is used in the text by Lao Tzu is wholeness or completion. And so that's then where this idea of all of life as a movement towards our wholeness or our completion is very important for us to understand, because to our ear, see, if we hear perfection, then we start to think about doing. To our perfection, if we start to hear perfection, we think about holiness. We think about how we have to act, how we have to be, what we have to say, what we don't have to say, what type of language do we have to use? Do we have to dress a certain way? Do we have to go through certain rituals or not, right? But what the heart of what's being said there is that all of life is a movement toward wholeness. And for me, studying the Tao Te Ching with Reverend August Gold opened my mind and heart in profound ways that reverberate to this day. Of course, it inspired the song that I wrote, Toward Our Wholeness, a song that we sing at Celebration Spiritual Center. And I'm grateful that I receive messages even now, people that hear the song and how it has impacted them, and people are still buying the sheet music and listening to the song. And I'm grateful that moment of inspiration has in turn taken on a life of its own. And so we know that wholeness is a spiritual truth that we are very familiar with at CSC. Just as this knowing anchored Sacred Center, New York, this knowing anchors Celebration Spiritual Center. PY and I have deliberately centered this message of wholeness and this reality of wholeness and this knowingness of wholeness in our spiritual work and all that we do in, through, and as Celebration Spiritual Center. When I look back at sermon series like Well-Being Abounds and The Worthiness Project and Renew Your Mind and The Way of the Master Metaphysician and the Well Not Woke series, and of course, Toward Our Wholeness, The Wisdom of the Tao, where we looked at the Tao Te Ching specifically, and so many, many more, what's clear to me is that this message of wholeness reverberates and resonates throughout all that we have taught and are teaching. Because, see, all of these series point us back to the reality of oneness, which is the realization of wholeness, right? When we talk about oneness, this is one of those anchoring truths of New Thought in general, that we are one with God. What that is pointing us to is the recognition and the realization of wholeness. If we go back to the Science of Mind, one of the texts that we use often in the first part of the introduction, the thing itself, under divine nature is in every human. What does Ernest Holmes write? He writes that there is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness, and insofar as it operates, is God. That is the meaning of the word Emmanuel, the meaning of the word Christ. There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. There is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness. So when we talk about the reality of oneness, and we talk about the reality of who and what God is, and we talk about our God concept and understanding who and what God is, we're talking about this universal wholeness, because it's that knowingness of the universal wholeness, and we are one with that wholeness, that then we have the ability and capability to understand and live from the reality of our own wholeness. Wholeness is the reality of our very being. This is what undergirds our knowing then that we are divine. See, there's some people out here that are just talking loud and saying nothing, talk about their divine and their divine beings, but it's not based on anything because they do not understand the reality of the universal wholeness. It's interesting too, as I look, the word wholeness appears 48 times in the Science of Mind. Wholeness ain't new. The word wholeness appears 81 times in A Course in Miracles, right? Another text that we use often and anchors so much of the understanding of what we teach here at CSC. And so taking all of this into consideration, you might be able to imagine my first response to an article in Oprah Daily, which was published in January of this year, entitled, "Why Wholeness is the New Wellness," followed by a podcast interview with the author of that article that is entitled, "Is Wholeness the New Wellness?" I couldn't roll my eyes hard enough. I was side-eyeing that thing. I was like, what is this mess? Wholeness ain't new? But to the author's credit, she does identify the obsession with wellness as a huge problem in our society. And when we consider that, one of the things that's highlighted in the article, of course, we know that wellness has become this umbrella marketing term that has created an estimated $4.4 trillion global industry. And it's on track to reach $7 trillion by 2025, which will make it larger than the global pharmaceutical industry. And that's very interesting. This is one of those things where it makes you start to pay attention to what's really going on, because we know and can talk about big pharma and how terrible the pharmaceutical industry is, and that industry, it's driven by profit. All of that is true, right? And should be critiqued. But we have this so-called wellness industry that is about to surpass in just a couple years the global pharmaceutical industry. And so then we need to take a better look at what's really going on with this wellness industry, what's happening here. Because if it's overtaking the pharmaceutical industry, that means it's doing what that industry did, but better. And so we understand then that wellness as an industry, as this umbrella marketing term, has grown in large part due to the Western world's appropriation and cherry picking of rituals, practices, and even resources of ancient wisdom and indigenous cultures. And in many cases, they've then, out of that appropriation, just turned it into something that it was never intended to be. And of course, this has even led to exploitation. When I think about many resources, something as simple as palm oil, right, which is used widely in the vegan industry, right, used in many vegan butters, right. But then there's all of these other things that's happening that's very exploitative, right. When we start to look at that and we understand that this is what's underneath and behind the curtain of this wellness industry. And so before wholeness also becomes a tool of consumer capitalism, I felt it was necessary to remind all of us what wholeness truly is. I felt it was necessary to ground us again in the spiritual and metaphysical principles of new thought that remind us that we're whole, that teach us about wholeness, that reminds us that wholeness ain't new, and also that then keeps us from getting swept up in whatever this trend turns out to be. So the first thing I think it's important for us to understand is that wholeness is not a concept, nor is it a commodity. See, wholeness is, as I quoted Ernest Holmes, right? We partake of the nature of the universal wholeness, and insofar as it operates, it is God. So wholeness is because God is the wholeness behind wholeness. God is the unity behind union. God is the universal song behind harmony. God is one. As God is, I am. As God is, you are. As God is, we are. And then there's that other word that I cited as we look back at the Tao Te Ching, where the root word of perfection as it's used in that text is wholeness or completion. So wholeness is completion. And what is something that we affirm all the time within New Thought? I am whole, perfect, and complete. This is what is rooted in that idea. If we go to other texts, I referenced this a few weeks ago, and I couldn't remember the source, but it's A Course of Love. A Course of Love, where we read the powerful affirmation, I am the accomplished. And I talked about that idea. Think about, you know what it means when you accomplish something, when you've completed something, when it's finished and you're satisfied with it, right? And that's who and what you are. That's another way to say I am whole, perfect, and complete. And then in the infinite way, we read, we are the fulfillment of God. It had a good idea that was you. And it continued to work on that good idea, it continued to think on that good idea, it continued to contemplate that idea until that good idea came into being. I am the fulfillment of God. I am the accomplished. I am perfect, whole, and complete. See, understanding this, then we know that wholeness is not a concept. It is a spiritual reality. And wholeness is not a commodity. It is not a new trend. It is not something to, like a piece of clothing to put on that will be in style today and go out of style next year. Understanding this, we know then that we are never broken. We know that we are returning to what was always true. Wholeness is not a concept or a commodity. Wholeness is because God is. So understanding that, then we understand that there's a path to the realization of wholeness, right? And this realization, this word is very important. This is a word I always think about and liken to Paramhansa Yogananda, this idea of realization. Right? This idea of making something real, not that it wasn't real, but the idea of realization is that it's bringing it into our experience here, because everything that exists on the spiritual plane is real, but it may not be an experience in the physical plane. And so we have the opportunity to realize it, experience it in this realm, right? And so there's a path to the realization of wholeness. You see, in the toxic expression of wellness as an industry or as a marketing term, what is the focus on? The focus is on doing. The focus is on getting. The focus is on fixing. And as I just said, we are never broken. because we understand that we are whole, perfect, and complete in truth. And so what this doing, what this getting, what this fixing does, first, it's always about making people think that they have a problem or identifying problems that they didn't know they had. And it creates paranoia in many people. And so instead of accessing well-being and a state of peace and ease, we oftentimes become worried. We become worried about what's wrong with us because we just saw somebody on the Today Show, some new expert talking about why tomatoes aren't good for us now, right? And now we're paranoid. Oh no, let me go in my cabinet and throw out all my jars of tomato sauce. And oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to replace tomatoes with? And all of a sudden now they want you to replace tomatoes with eggplant, right? I'm making this up, but it actually sounds like something that happens all the time, right? All of a sudden, one thing is good for weight loss. A couple years later, it's not. One thing is good for you a few years back, and now it's not good for you, right? And it creates this sense of paranoia. At the worst case, in the article, the author talks about a friend of hers who was wearing a glucose monitor. And she asked her, she asked what it was. She didn't know what it was. And she was like, oh, a glucose monitor. Oh, are you diabetic? And she's like, no, I just want to see how my body responds when I eat certain things. So she's in this mode of like trying to fix something that's actually not broken. Right? She doesn't need to monitor her glucose, right? She hasn't been diagnosed with a condition, but it's a paranoid way of living. And so then it creates this thing of many times that we're trying to avoid aging and avoid dying, right? Two of those things that are inevitable, right? We're going to get older, right? And all of us are going to leave this plane and transition, that we actually forget to live because we're so caught up in all of these things of what people are saying is or is not good, right? We're caught up in all of these sometimes, gadgets and things which can serve you well, right? I talk about it all the time. I love my Apple Watch. I love the information that I get from it. But to the point that it starts to make me paranoid, I would have to put it down, right? I would have to shut down that app because it wouldn't benefit me. Now, wholeness, on the other hand, does not require doing, getting, or fixing. Wholeness is something you already possess but may not be making use of. Wholeness is something you already possess, but the conditioning that comes from living in this world may be blocking it. And so then the path to the realization of wholeness then only requires three things. It generally requires some form of undoing, some form of unlearning, and some form of releasing or letting go. And so this is why these spiritual ideas of surrender, right? We got to come back to them over and over again. This is why these spiritual principles of forgiveness, we got to come back to over and over and over again. And so when we understand then that wholeness is something we already possess and only requires undoing, unliving, and letting go or releasing, it's like there's a person standing in front of you with $1 million check with your name on it, but your hand is closed. Now, as you can try to sweet talk that person into giving you the check, you can make promises about what you will do for them once you put the check into your account and it clears. You can jump up and down. You could sing songs. You can cry and wail, but none of these things will put that check in your hand until you do what? Open your hand. And undoing and unlearning and letting go is just like opening your hand. See, most of us are out here in that doing, in that getting and fixing that the wellness industry tries to push us to do. Well, that's just like singing a song with your hand closed, right? That's just like jumping up and down, doing all of these things. But all you have to do is open your hand, and the thing that's already endorsed to you with your name on it will be placed in it. But nobody can place that thing in a closed hand. And then we think about how easy it is. Imagine coming to yourself and realizing, you mean all this time? It reminds me, as I was working on my notes, I was thinking about this. It reminds me of The Wizard of Oz. Right? You mean all this time? I'm thinking about the Scarecrow in The Wiz with Dorothy. The only thing that was keeping me from getting off that pole and living it up down here were these crows. And Dorothy reminds him, you were just a product of some bad thinking. And that's always the truth, that the ease of wholeness, because it's available to us, it's a reality that exists, doesn't require us to do anything, doesn't require us to become someone new. It requires us to realize who we've always been. It requires us to let go of and shed any old clothing that doesn't serve us. That's another metaphor. It's like standing outside with 3 or 4 winter coats on in 90-degree weather. You burning up sweating. It's like, it sure is hot out here. I wish I could do something about it. Take them coats off. You'll be good. And that's the reality of what wholeness is, and the reality of the undoing, the unlearning, the letting go, the releasing. The other thing I think that's important to consider when we're talking about wholeness is that worthiness and understanding our worthiness is a path to the realization of wholeness. See, this is beyond deservedness, which is something that the wellness culture affirms. Oh, you deserve it. You deserve to feel good, right? Oh, you deserve this thing. You deserve to be happy, right? But the thing is, while I understand that it's well-meaning and it's well-intended, it does not get to the heart of it. Why? Because we are born worthy. As P.Y. has said in the past, you're born worthy and you're going to leave here worthy. We're born whole. And the circumstances of our birth cannot change that. Our life experiences, the wanted experiences or the unwanted experiences, the so-called good experiences and the so-called bad experiences cannot change that. And here again is why unlearning is so important. I'm reminded in the Christian context, and I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this song, Give Me a Clean Heart. Right, a song that is partly referenced and inspired by David's prayer in the Psalms, where he's lamenting after having committed a terrible act and wanting forgiveness from God. But this song affirms a false idea. Lord, I'm not worthy of all these blessings. Right, well, CSC is a church that teaches worthiness. We can't affirm, Lord, I'm not worthy. See, that's false humility. You are absolutely worthy because the universal wholeness is operating in, through, and as you. What did Ernest Holmes say? There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. Take pride in it. Love that. Know that that is what informs your worth. Right? It's like knowing what informs, you can have a money, right? It's backed by a government. It's backed by a power, if you will, right? And so you know that you can circulate that easily and effortlessly because of what it's backed by. So it is the same thing with your worthiness. It is backed by this reality, the nature of the divine being. And since we partake of the nature of the divine being, we are what? We are divine. Since we partake of the divine being, we are what? We are whole. Since we take part of the nature of the divine being, we are what? Worthy. You are worthy because of the universal wholeness that moves through you and lives as you. Wholeness ain't new. And so finally, I'm reminded of another idea that speaks to the reality of wholeness, reminding us that wholeness ain't new. Wholeness is embodied in the profound questions asked in the allegorical story of Adam and Eve. We all know the story of Adam and Eve. That they were told that they should not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That if they eat of that tree, they would surely die. And so the character, Eve, meets another character in the story, a serpent that can talk. And the serpent in the story says, hey, actually, you won't die. I know for a fact. If you eat it, you won't die. And so, after being convinced, both Eve and Adam eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it is said, according to the story, that in the cool of the evening, God decides to walk through the Garden of Eden. Again, it's a story. The character God doesn't walk around in gardens. And Adam and Eve were hiding from God. They were hiding because they were ashamed. Earlier in the text, we read that they were naked and unashamed. And now they're ashamed. They're hiding themselves from each other and from God. And God is looking for them. And he calls out for them. And they respond, and they're hiding. And God asks, why? Well, why are you hiding? They say, because we're naked. And God's response to them is, who told you that you are naked? And this is about wholeness. I love this question. It's one of those profound moments that's in plain sight in Scripture that I think we can't talk about enough. Because by virtue of the character God asking this question, it was clear that it was not judging them. It was clear that this being didn't hold them in disregard or unforgiveness or wanted to throw them into a lake of fire, right? God was not seeing them as they saw themselves. Let's hear that again. God was not seeing them as they saw themselves. Because from the vantage point of the divine, you are perfect, whole, and complete. Wholeness is. But how we may be seeing ourselves, that is what contributes to us not realizing the reality of wholeness. And so here in 2023, I hear the voice of love. I hear the voice of God. I hear the voice of Source. I hear the voice of the divine within us asking the same question. Who told you you were broken? Who told you you needed to be fixed? Who told you you needed to spend thousands of dollars to be well? Who told you that this new class would make you whole? Who told you that this diet would make you whole? Who told you that this new wellness app would solve all your problems? Wholeness ain't new. We affirm wholeness over wellness because we understand the truth of our being. We affirm wholeness over wellness because we recognize that this has nothing to do with what's happening out in our world, individually or collectively. It has nothing to do with what we may be experiencing in our bodies right now. Wholeness is a spiritual reality, and it is the truth of you. And while I am grateful to see a shift in the conversation, that there's a recognition that wholeness is what we should be going after, if you will, I also know that consumer capitalism is lurking around the corner. It's waiting to absorb this new thing into its machine. It always has, it always will. And that's why it's important that we put our foot down, plant a flag right here and now in this moment in our consciousness to remember, oh, I understand what wholeness is all about. This is ancient wisdom. I understand what wholeness is. I'm not seeking after wellness. The other thing here when we understand this is that when you operate from this default position of wholeness, then that's what informs you to the right practices, the right practitioners, the right doctors, the right apps, the right gadgets, the right devices, the right books. And in most cases, if you look at the folks who may have been the originators of a certain practice or maybe have brought a certain practice to the West, they were guided out of that inner knowing, right? That inner sense of wholeness, which is the truth. And life is always trying to restore itself back to that. That's what's going to guide you. So we let that inform us. It's not that the wellness practices that we see out here in the world are bad, right? You may be drinking an amazing tea that's making you feel good, and I'm sure it is, right? I'm not saying the tea is bad. I'm not saying the devices are bad. I'm not saying that the apps are bad or whatever form of meditation or yoga you may be doing. But let yourself be informed by wholeness. One of the things we're going to talk about this month is even understanding the difference in that voice, right? How, are you being motivated by that inner knowing that's then leading you to the things that brings you back into balance, that brings you back into peace, that brings you into the realization of what is? Or are you keeping up with the Joneses? Or are you following the new fad? Or are you following the new trend? Wholeness over wellness. Wholeness is ancient wisdom, and it ain't new. May wholeness continue to lead you and continue to guide you. And may we all embrace our very own wholeness so that we can live and thrive and thrive and thrive. To that I say amen, ashe, and so it is. So it must be.
Ah, yes, yes. It is so perfectly timed that we would be talking about this in our March 10-year month, because we had been thinking about how were we going to set ourselves up? What would our purpose be? How would we teach these ideas and concepts? And we knew that this was critical back then. And so I love the idea that we're coming around to it again and again and again and again, because you have to understand this so that you don't get caught up in that. You could get with this or you could get with that, right? You got to understand that this is fundamental to New Thought teachings. It is fundamental to your understanding and your ability to be a master manifester. It is critical to knowing yourself and remembering, as I like to say, who you really are. Does it mean that we don't make mistakes? No. But it means that we become more compassionate. We take on the compassion that we always have been receiving from Source. We give it to ourselves. We have been listening to external sources that have helped us forget, that have contributed to us forgetting. But wholeness helps us remember.
Always.
Always, because it's never gone away. We've turned away from it. Circumstances have taken us off course, but we're still on the path.
Yeah.
All of a life is a movement towards wholeness.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you, PG.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm excited to move forward with this series in the coming weeks. It's going to be good. Feel free to share this series or this sermon with someone that you think it may resonate with. But of course, at this time, it is time for giving. You see the information on your screen. It's very easy to give to CSC. Just go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There's a $10 minimum to text to give. But what's most important? What's most important is that you give what feels good. There needs to be joy behind your giving. And when I say joy, I'm not saying you got to be jumping up and down, giddy, like you just won $1 million, right? Although I can say that if you can access that type of vibration in your giving, oh my goodness, like the things that will show up in your receiving will conjure the same emotion. So I'm not saying that you have to be jumping up and down, but there needs to be a good feeling behind it. And why is that important? Well, because we know that in many cases of giving, and most of us have been taught and trained, whether it was in church or even giving philanthropically, right? There's this, oh, we're helping those that are less fortunate than us, or you much has been given to you, so you need to also give to other people, right? So there's a hint of shade in there. There's hints of shame and blame and guilt. And what we understand is that when we're working with money, which is just a form of energy, like all other energy, it responds to the feeling tone that's behind it, and that's what we're really giving, right? The paper and metal discs, it's just a representation of energy. And so we want to be clear about the energy that we're sending out, because all that we send out comes back to us. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we give, what feels good. And when we do that, then we can affirm this powerful, beautiful truth. All the money that I use.
All the money that I use.
Returns to me multiplied.
Returns to me multiplied.
In a never-ending cycle.
In a never-ending cycle.
Of increase.
Of increase.
And enjoyment.
And enjoyment.
Yes. And so we are so very grateful to that. We say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
So it is.
So it is.
So it is. We are grateful for each and every one of you. We are grateful for your continued financial support as you continue to support the mission vision of CSC. And of course, the Celebration Spiritual Center continues to serve thousands across the globe and continues to be incredibly impactful 10 years since our beginning. Mm-hmm. So we have reached the end of our weekend service for today, and I am trusting that you will have a good remainder of your day, that your Sunday will be awesome and relaxing and fun. You do whatever it is that you desire to do. And I am also confident that your week will be awesome. Live an empowered life. Take these teachings to heart, and they will transform your life. I have no doubt about it. Right? I've just seen it too many times to doubt it. Right? Mm-hmm. And of course, we trust that many of you will join us on Wednesday morning for the Momentum Prayer Call. Again, a reminder, we are back to our Wednesday schedule. And if you're unable to join us on Wednesday, you can always call in and listen to the recording. Otherwise, we will gather together again next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we continue with our series, Embracing Wholeness, mm-hmm. and continue to be the God experience. So please have an amazing day and an even better week. All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.